Okay. Hi, folks. Very good morning to Europe. Very good afternoon to Middle East, India, and yeah, let's say good evening to down under. I was amazed when I double checked last night. So the participation or registration list, amazing. Thanks for your interest, and hopefully you will have some interesting minutes together with us. Assuming that we need approximately 30 minutes for this KNX webinar, which has the content of KNX sequences. We is Christoph at the control panel in the background, like usual, and myself. My name is Elmar, Head of Technical Support and Training. Yeah, what's the content of today? We want to share some insights with you about sequence function, what options we do have here, short and brief. Then we will, like usual, have a short, let's say, view in the application settings finally. And like usual, you know, mostly at the end of the session, we do have here prepared a live demo with the content of sequence control. So for which application we can use a sequence control? So it could be, for instance, like a chaser control, could be some like light effects for advertisement for some events, however, sequence light control in wellness areas, for instance, or even for production areas or production scenarios, you can use these sequence controller as well, or probably for irrigations of plants and whatever. And yeah, probably you have some more ideas after this workshop, after this webinar, hopefully. Yeah, which devices, which appliances does support these function sequences in general? So it is our push button interface, so the TA, TA2 till TA8S, which is finally an appliance like that. We do have here the, let's say, the inputs, terminals or cables, however. And this product is supporting you sequence function, supporting, like you see here. We do have here some, let's say, control commands, which we can send, which we can share. Is a switching priority value 0 to 255 percentage value in 1 byte format, or data point 9, data point 14, for instance, which we may use, which we can use finally for a sequence control. Is this all? No, by far not. We do have here as well, probably you know, the Eon series. The Eon series, so mainly the push button, like Eon 104 or 102 on the left-hand side, or the room controller, the Eon 108. And what you discover here, we do have here by far more of these applications and these control commands, which we can share, which we can use for a sequence control. I want to make you acquainted, and at that stage, I think it makes sense to specify or to differentiate a little bit what is a scene and what is a sequence in general. So a scene, you know, you call up a specific scene. So that means, for instance, it's such kind of a building. So a blind is positioned, a light is dimmed to a specific brightness. Temperature is called up, for instance, in a room that you feel comfortable during the meeting, however. And this scene you call up. You can call up a second scene, sure, for presentation or whatnot, but this has to be done once, and you have to do it manually. With a sequence, you may achieve that you have a kind of, let's say, a flow of a light of functions finally, which you preset per channel or per input of such kind of push button interface. You can give 4 commands, 4 control commands to drivers, to actuators, to any kind of, let's say, gears, LED gears or so, however. And this you call up by push button, or you can start it with, let's say, a time frame which can be preset. And this is running continuously, depends on the setting, however. Yeah, general. Nevertheless, if you start, for instance, such a sequence, you can predefine the steps. So if it's counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, like you see here in the upper line, and then counting down 3, 2, 1, or if you choose the setting 1, 2, 3, 4 and start again with 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is continuously running, however, so this can be preset. We will almost at the end of this webinar today, I will show you why this, the A example could be of interest for an application. So like you discovered now, so we have here this TA2. We have here directly linked push button, however, or for instance, we take the Eon and we have manually to start this push button here or here, however, to start the sequence. So for this purpose, we need to address here in the application setting of the ETS, yes, we probably want to do it mainly, or probably in an industrial environment, we do have here any kind of contacts which are starting this sequence when a contact is closed, or when a specific working process, for instance, gives us a reasonable trigger, so then we start another sequence. However, we can send a color temperature. This can be used, for instance, for human-centric light. So you can address, like an example here, pressing the push button early morning, 2.5 K, we call up these, let's say, warm light of the color. Second step, or second push on the push button, we call up another value, call out another value, and call out another value. So that means for HCL probably is not that comfortable. So in this case, probably it may be of advantage to use here these time control. So then these change from a warm white to a cold white is automized finally, and you have not to care about, you have not to modify, however, except you want to use it for a specific event to call up a specific, let's say, mood light, let's say this way. With this, let's say, option, you can call up as well. You discover here RGBW, so you can call up a specific light by each press of the push button. For instance, you can call up a preset color temperature, or not color temperature, but color. Yeah, with the color picker on the application settings, you preset finally which color mix you want to call up. It's up to you how it has to be done. So for this purpose, we move to the ETS, and let's take first of all these, let's say, TA2S, which gives us per channel. So in total, we have 3 of these channels, and a sequence is just, let's say, concentrated on one input on one channel. So I open this channel as an example and open these objects here, and these objects here, channel function. So mainly, basically, it is on switch, then on dimming, then on blinds, however, but probably you have discovered once, we do have here the option as well, sequence. If I open sequence, immediately you discover now, oh, okay, with this channel 1, so that means for this purpose, we change to that. So we do have here an interface. The interface input is linked here to this push button. We have here a common ground, and when this push button finally is pressed, so then this sequence, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, is starting running automatically. So that means we can now define what shall happen here. So the TA, the channel 1, and the first step, for instance, is switching. I send the on command. I have predefined the second step is, for instance, a value of 0 to 255, which probably could be, don't know, damper control in an airing system. You have a meeting, and you want to have a reasonable air exchange, and you want to position the dampers in the airing system to a specific value, probably, just as an example. I want to have a percentage value for the reasonable light, so that I have a specific light as specifically as a speaker in the front. Probably here we have a good illumination, and probably with another communication we do give let's say a dim down value to the audience, where the people are located, where the people are sitting finally. Yeah, so this you can do in a sequence. You predefine, sorry for that. You can predefine what kind of control command you need, you want to send, and here finally you define so which control command you want to address. If you have a mix of different control commands like we do have here, so it probably makes sense, not probably, it makes sense. For instance, you activate all these control settings to yes, and you predefine here the reasonable values. In the step 2, you can address here as well, yes, you want to send here different values, and the values can here be different to your step 1, for instance. Yeah, so sorry, this is 110, for instance, and we do have here in this way 90, however, and here we do have, for instance, an off. So then it means step 1, in one shot, these control commands are sent. Then after, and I think this is important to share with you as well, you have here the option that these intervals, for instance, start automatically. So then when you start triggering with the push button, I take for this purpose, I take the Eon, so you start the sequence, and then the sequence, this preset time is elapsed, sending that after 45 seconds, the next step is starting, and after the elapsed time of the step 2, then the step 3 starts, and after the elapsed time of step 3, then the step 4 is called up. So that's how it mainly works. So it's not that really complicated, but it doesn't make any sense just to make you aware. If, for instance, you had set here, for instance, percentage value, you have here a percentage value, you have here percentage value. And probably here you send finally an off, and when you activate here, and just an example, you send here 10, you send here 20, and you send here 45 and whatnot. So, and you have activated all of them, so then it doesn't make any sense. So the first control command which is reached will finally execute this control command. So when you have different control outputs, so then it makes sense, but these control commands here are affecting just the channel 1. So, and the first control command which is sent or which is reached finally, reaching the reasonable activator, will finally affect the function. So back to this presentation here. So we do have here the option, for instance, we do have here a mix. So it could be, for instance, these different colors, so a mix of different, let's say, functions which you can call up, or what you need to know, or what I want to show in such a way. So each of these sequence is equipped with its own, let's say, delay time or elapsed time. It's you who decide how long this sequence shall finally last, or how long the elapsed time finally should be. The distinguishing is finally in seconds and minutes. So that means, for instance, sequence 1 takes 15 seconds to elapse. After 15 seconds, sequence 2 is started. Sequence 2 lasts finally 45 seconds, and after 45 seconds, the sequence 3 is started. Sequence 3, in this example here, is set to minutes, and now, for instance, we do have here 15 minutes finally, which this sequence 3 and the reasonable control command, which is sent, is running, is present. And then sequence 4 finally after 120 minutes after the last sequence. So then probably depends on the presetting. So then it starts from the scratch, or probably it stops. So if you have preset in the application, in the channels here, in the objects, so sequence detail, so that means restart automatically. No, so that means you have to press again on a push button to start this cycle. Or if you want to have, let's say, this automatism that this sequence is continuously running, so then you have to set it to yes. So then it starts again from the scratch. Here you discover, so let's say the time frame, not the time frame, but the cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it starts again, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3, 2, 1 backwards. This we need later on for a specific example. So this is the way how you preset it, and that's exactly what it's meant here in this presentation slide. We have prepared as well, let's say, a mix of different, let's say, values or control commands. And for this case, we have used this kind of, let's say, table of truth, which should give you a better overview about so what happens if. So we do have here 4 steps, which we meanwhile have learned. And each of these steps can give, if preset, reasonable values. Step 1, for instance, so that means the channel 1 here is giving you an on command on this group address. On object value, a percentage value on this group address. On another group address, we send another value, and this is, for instance, another light or a central function, central off, or however. Yeah, so you discover here, so this is finally a small sequence, and this will running automatically if preset accordingly, so that endless function is preset, for instance. Then you have exactly that cycle. So how it looks in reality. So for this purpose, I open here the diagnostics and, the group monitor, and we will have full screen. And we want to have, for instance, here this, yes. So first of all, I start with a short example, which is a kind of marquee light. So I press here on a push button. And for this purpose, I will give you, for instance, our panel. So this is exactly a small demonstration of a kind of marquee light or a process in a factory, however. So this is like it is. Then I have parallel, I have here this push button, and if I do now a double click and I go to the panel, what you discover the process stops immediately. So starting, okay, you see it's running. So then now I start again. So that means with a click, we start again the process, and with a double click, we stop it. So that's the way how these, let's say, kind of advertisement light, this chaser light, for instance, is working. Yeah, you see here, I've frozen the communication now. You see here, this is the time frame. If you watch carefully, so we do have here the different times which I have preset, and channel 1, channel 2, channel 3 is switching on, and then we have a central off. In this case, centered on the actuator, for instance, of this small demonstration. Okay. So then I open another application, and this is exactly the application of this table of truths. So yes, so now I start this one here, and this is finally the O2. So we see here, we have here another sequence, totally different. We send an on control command. We send here, like in the table of truth, we send here the different values, yeah, and this is starting. And if I double click, so then this process stops immediately. And when I start with a 1, so then this process starts again. So this is finally how it works. So then you can integrate whatever you like. Yeah, is it up to you? Clear. Yes. So we go down here. So this is exactly what we do have here. I want to close this one here. So then we go back to the presentation. So that means this, probably you remember, this has been exactly the process which was currently running in our small demo. Yeah, to make it more visible for you, so the group addresses are quite simple to be set up. So that means we do have here the push button interface. In my case, my demo, I've used the TA8S, and I address or I control the RM8S, so 8-volt switching actuator from Taban. So my input from TAH, the first sequence, is addressed to the first channel. Second sequence is, or second control demand from sequence 1 is addressed to a dimmer, which is, for instance, this one here. And we address another sequence value on the other channel of this dimmer. And then finally, we control the channel 5 here of the switching actuator again. So this is finally how it is integrated. Here, the push buttons to start, for instance, are to be integrated. That's it. The values are set here. And in the application setting in the ETS, you see here in this time frame, or in this frame setting here, we do have here the on control command. We do have here send object 2 is a percentage value which is preset in the application, sending or giving us 10%. The object 3 is exactly this one here, is giving us 15%, and the object switching finally is giving us at the end of this first step an off telegram and further on. So that's how it works finally. And further on, you can address step 2, step 3, step 4 individually. On the bottom line, you define finally how is the time frame in these different steps. If time controlled, then it pops up. If you have just the control start for each sequence via push button, so you finally decide, finally if you want to press the push button to start the sequence, then these time settings here are disappearing. Yeah, so you do not have the chance to set. Just in case, in the event, if time control shall be used, so then you have the option to set finally these reasonable values here in the presentations here. Okay, so let's go a step ahead in terms of, let's say, the more advanced functions, so which is giving us the Eon series, so the Eon 102, 104, and 108. So the room controller is 108. And this application is more advanced, it's more powerful, I have to say. And we do have here, you see, you have here the options supporting HVAC commands. We can call up in a sequence specific scenes. You see now, you can implement more just a sequence. You can implement different scenes. You can call up different scenes which have other combinations, other function combinations and applications in the background. Then we do have here, which is probably important in the future, this application color temperature. We support RGB, depends on the LED stripes, or RGBW color control, and depends how you want to control the LED light XY color control. So to give a reasonable application, you see here, you discover here the screenshots. If we probably want to integrate HVAC commands, you see here, you can here choose between the different, let's say, HVAC commands for some events, for yeah, I don't know, at the end of the day, you want to bring some in a, let's say, kind of sleep mode. However, you can address here the HVAC mode. Then we can call up scenes, and you know, at the beginning, I tried to distinguish between what is a scene, what is a sequence, and a scene is fixed, but could be a scene of 15, 50, or 100 different functions in a building, and this scene probably is defined as scene 1. And you call just this scene 1 up in a sequence, and you have 4 of these sequences available. You see, the application setting is by far, or the application options are by far bigger than with a simple scene in general. When we talk about the color temperature, so color temperature is interesting, especially for the circadian daylight and how can I say, the light flow during the day. And for that purpose, we can support, or we do support these color temperature control either. So, and this could be probably of good interest in the future. Just to explain a few bit. So what is meant with HCL? HCL stands for human-centric light. So that means we do have here during the daytime, we do have different light colors. So warm white starting at the early morning. During the noontime, we do have here icy white shining light. And in the evening time, we do have here again, so these warm lights. So that means talking in, let's say, values and in Kelvin. So that means with 2500 Kelvin, we have a really warm, nice light at the beginning, early morning. And we do have as well in the evenings time and in the afternoon time, we do have here more these, let's say, red color type, so with a low K value. In the noontime, so around 12 o'clock, and so we do have here around 6,000, 8,000 K, so a cold, icy white light color. And this, why we use this? Exactly to rebuild in an office, in a schoolroom, in a meeting room, however, let's say a kind of natural daylight. It is artificial light, but we try to rebuild it with this light, color, temperature control. We try to rebuild it inside of a meeting room. Yeah? And for this purpose, we need this color temperature. How we can achieve? We need this, let's say, control command you see here on top. Yeah, so this color temperature, in total, we do have here 4 objects. And you remember, we have the options, for instance, here, that we can start the time set, or the step sets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in this case, we need this 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, because we start here 1, 2, 3, 4 in the noon time, then we count down 3, 2, 1, because we want to go back to give this low color temperature again at the end of the day. And for that purpose, for instance, we need these steps here specifically. So that means we preset here, starting the day with 2500 K, then heading the noontime, for instance, so we change the color temperature more to the icy cold, and this finally is giving us this good effect, this impact of natural daylight of this circadian light control. I want to show in a practical part. So for that purpose, I go back to the to my diagnostic. I separate here the group addresses, and I start this circadian light. And I do have here, you see here, this is a specific LED stripe giving us warm white and cold white, or different color temperatures, however. And you discover here in this automatism here, I started with 2.5 K, which was rather warm, Now we are reaching 4,500 K, so it becomes more colder. And now you see here, it is this cold, icy, cold light, which we in general do have here in the noontime. Then we change down to the, let's say, the afternoon time, 4,500 K. Then we go down to 3,500 K, and in the afternoon and the evening time, sorry. So then we do have here this warm shining light when the day is over. So in this automatism, so I preset it here with a time frame which is really, really little, but in general you can adjust this in a time frame of up to 120 minutes. I stop this procedure here. You see double clicking as well on the Eon, and the procedure is stopped here. So that means this sequence here. Yeah, what does it mean? It means finally that that we do have here the option to address these warm white, cold white in a specific way. So that means we have here a push button, configuration options. I choose here sequence and the object types. Let's see. Yes, so I need this one here. It's okay. Time, yeah, restart automatically. Yes, I put it to yes. And here you can adjust, so by the way, with a long push button. So I start from the scratch. So for instance, just as an example, so we have reached exactly that point here. So the value 3, which is 4,500 K in my example, and you want to start from the scratch. So that means start from 1. So then you have just to press this push button for 3 seconds, and then this procedure, this time controlled sequence starts from the beginning. Or double clicking, for instance, you can end this sequence. So it's up to you. No function, start with step 1 or end of the sequence you see here in these settings here. Yeah, so if we move to that, so we do have here, for instance, the color temperature. Yeah, so you see here, color temperature here. And the second option is as well color temperature, and we do have here as well color temperature, and we do have here as well color temperature. So this is, for instance, how you have to set up such kind of, let's say, simple HCL control solution. So the step 1, finally, now you decide, okay, so with which kind of color temperature, for instance, 2,500, you may start. Then in this case, I would recommend, because we are addressing the same, the same output. So that means in this case, we do have here, so let's say we do have here this communication object of push button 1. Here we have here the same addressing of, for instance, the LED driver, the LED ballast, LED gear, the switch, the dim gear, and we address the same communication object. And for that purpose, we can send in the step 1 4 different values. So here I decide to send 2,500. The second step, I send here. Yes, I want to send here, for instance, 3,500, but here I put to no. So I just address with a step 2, 3,500. Step 3, probably I send 4,000. And this I deactivate. Yeah, and then go to step 4. I want to address, and here I address 6,000 K, for instance, so to the noontime. Yeah. So in this case, if I want to do such kind of HCL control, so that I can finally rebuild a kind of circadian daylight, artificial circadian daylight, so then I have to preset it in such a way. So that's how it finally works. And this time frame, these steps in between these, let's say, change of the color temperature, it's up to you. You know, if you remember, minimum is 1 second, maximum 120 minutes. And with this simple function, you can really rebuild with a reasonable artificial LED light this kind of circadian light situation, which we want to have in a room, in a seminar room, in a schoolroom, or whatever, just to keep the people in a good mood. Yeah, then we can use as well these RGB or RGBW color control. For this purpose, we need here, for instance, these specific settings here. So that means RGB or RGBW, depends on what your LED stripe or LED light is supporting you. With a reasonable color picker, you select your desired or your most favorite color. So I want to do it in such a way, just explain it in that way. Sequence, yes, object type. And in this case, I take, for instance, RGB white. So this is object 1, and that's what you get finally. You open here the color picker, and then you can, for instance, select here your most favorite color which you want to have, or here, for instance, you know how it works. And if you want, for instance, to have this kind of color, yeah, click on that. You get the reasonable, let's say, color. You can here, let's say, modify your most favorite, let's say, white level, which you can do. Step 2, you take another, let's say, color picker. In this case, you want to have a kind of a nice orange or so. So it could be such like that. Okay, and depends on what partition of white you want to have, white level. So you address it here, and you know how it works finally. So for which purpose you can use this, or you may probably use this, could be, for instance, for such kind of things like specific event, probably in your private property, could be as well here in a sauna area, for instance, and this sequence is giving you different, let's say, color moods. However, yeah, regularly changing, keep you awake, keep you relaxed. However, this is how it works finally, and this is the option how you can do it with, let's say, this sequence control with RGB white. How you want to do it, step up or step down, or starting from the scratch, that's up to you. You see, sequences is nothing with 7 seals. It's rather simple. Our products are supporting you with that, TA2 up to TA8S, and as well the EON 102 and 108. What do you remember? The EON is specifically supporting you with the LED control and with the HVAC control in sequences. So hopefully you could grab some new ideas. And I want to remind you, so new contents of our webinars are currently in preparation, and we will update and publish this soon. We'll be really happy if we will meet next time. Take good care. Bye.